Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, my name is Brad. Today I'm going to be talking about watering Oncidium orchids. So this is an Oncidium in front of me, and I have a few more lined up along the bench here that I'm going to show you guys. And an Oncidium is not just an Oncidium, there are many different kinds of Oncidiums. So in order to water and care for them properly, you need to first know what kind of Oncidium you have. So I'm going to take you through the steps of watering each of a few different major sort of groups of Oncidiums, and just give you a little bit of care and cultural tips while we go. So let's have a look. Alright, so the first orchid we have in front of us is called a Brassa orchid, or Brassa Oncidium, and it is going to be at the warmer end of the Oncidiums we're going to be looking at today. Brassas or spider orchids, they like a higher light. They like a bark mix. This is just bark with a little bit of moss on top, and they like to almost become dry just before rewatering again. So I just take it, and I have the luxury of being able to get my floor wet here in the greenhouse, and I'm going to thoroughly water it, just like so, and let it run right out of the pot. There's a new growth down there. I don't know if you can see that. And here's a growth that's just starting to mature. That was an old bloom spike right there. So anyways, brassas, when we water them, you want them to almost dry out, then rewater. They like a nice bright light and quite warm temperatures. Alright, so the next orchid we have in front of us, this is an Oncidium as well. This is called a Culminaria. There are many different kinds. Most of them have a speckled bloom. This one is a Culminaria golden red star. You can see here it's in spike. That is a spike that goes up here. There's actually another spike right under this leaf here. And if we look up, this spike actually goes way up into the pitcher plants. So you can see that's the spike there. Now, Culminaria, they're not going to like quite as much light as the Brassa that we just looked at. And I'm going to give it a quick water here. We always want to water it thoroughly. Let the water drip out from the bottom of the pot. Culminaria are going to like a dappled to bright light. Now one of the differences, Culminaria Oncidium is just barely going to like to dry out. I like to rewater this before it's 100% dry. Where with the Brassa, if it dries out completely for a day or so, that's okay. So, Culminaria doesn't like to dry out. If you find you have wrinkled pseudobulbs, it means it's getting too little water. As for temperature-wise, these guys like it a little bit cooler than the Brassa orchids. A daytime high temperature for these guys of about 80 is perfect. And a nighttime low of 55 to 60 is good for them. It's planted in a bark mix. There's just a tiny bit of moss, but the moss actually is mixed all the way through. Unlike the Brassa orchid where it had bark on the bottom and just a skim of moss on the top, the moss lets it stay a little bit wetter as the mix dries. It retains a little bit more moisture right in the core. Alright, so in front of us here is a true Oncidium. This is an Oncidium maculatum. This is an actual species, not a hybrid like the other ones. 95% of the orchids you're going to find in grocery stores are going to be hybrids. So if you want a species, you do have to go to a source that specializes in Oncidium orchids. For watering an Oncidium species like this, again, you always want to water thoroughly. Let it pour right out. And for guys like this, I'm going to let it just approach dryness before we rewater it again. It doesn't like to be soggy. It likes to be moist for most of the time, but just get to that point where it's just drying out before I rewater it. This has got a bark mix with a tiny bit of moss in there. And since this one is a clear pot, you can see here the mixture in there. It's quite a fine mixture for this Oncidium species. It's got some perlite mixed in with it and some fine bark pieces. I've drilled some extra holes in the pot. You'll notice that in all my pots I have extra holes drilled. This is to give airflow through to the roots that are down deeper in the pot. Alright, so this one here, this is an Odontocidium. It has got a few different species mixed in with it, but whenever you hear the Odonto, you're going to know, and this is it right here, that was one I was holding at the beginning. Whenever you hear Odonto in front of it, you know it's going to be a cooler growing orchid that is going to like a constantly wet mix. So when we water this one, we're going to water it often, probably 2 to 3 to 4 times a week, and we never want the mix to actually dry out. This one's just a small plant right now, so I have it sitting in a clay pot for stability. I'm going to give a little bit more water there. We want to give these Odontocidiums a good drink. In the wild, these would come from higher up in the mountains and cloud forests. In wet, temperate forests, they're going to like a daytime temperature of 70 to 75, and they're going to like a nighttime temperature down to about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So the key with Odontocidiums is you never want to let them dry out completely. You don't want them to be soggy, but you're going to be watering them way more often than a lot of the other Oncidiums. Alright, the last one I'm going to talk about is an Oncidium type as well. This one is a Miltoniopsis, and although it's not directly related to some of the other Oncidiums that we've been talking about, it kind of gets clumped into the same category. So Miltoniopsis orchids are a cool growing cloud forest orchid. They are never going to want to dry out. This one I've had for a few years now. It's probably got 20 healthy bulbs on it, maybe more. Lots of new growth, probably 6 new pseudobulbs will be coming out this year. Again, maybe more. This one I keep in with my Masdevallias. It likes cloud forest conditions, lots of water, lots of humidity. This is one that, as long as you have good air to the roots like this, you can water it almost as often as you want. When you underwater a Miltoniopsis, you're going to see a little accordion-like pleating in the leaves. There's not much that I have that has this to show you, but you can see right on the tip there by my thumb how it's kind of almost accordioned. That is from when that growth was just maturing. It somehow got dehydrated and didn't get enough water for that period there. Here's another little one right here. So you can see the accordion. That's never going to correct itself now. That's going to be a forever reminder that at one point this didn't quite get enough water. So again, we want to give it plenty of fresh water, let it drain right through, and you can do that every second day for our Miltoniopsis. These guys, another name for them is a pansy orchid. They have big beautiful pansy flowers on them. And if you want to see any of the flowers that we've talked about today in any of these Oncidiums that aren't in bloom, these are all flowers that I have grown, had for years, know how to take care of, and have bloomed multiple times in the greenhouse here myself. So feel free to look up those videos and you can see what the flowers actually look like in bloom. Anyway guys, that is how we water Oncidium and Oncidium type orchids. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.